South Africa desperately needs to accelerate entrepreneurship amid the tough economic times to ensure that unemployment is eradicated. Well, that is the view of Dr. Steven Zwane, who in his article discusses the challenges posed by high unemployment rates, especially among the youth, despite an improved matriculation pass rate. Now, Dr. Steven Zwane is the founder as well as chair of Youth Leadership and Entrepreneur Leadership Development, and he joins us live. Doctor, thank you so much for your time. Look, briefly take us through some of the most critical issues that you raised in your article.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you and your viewers. In my article that I penned, I maybe decry the situation that young people of South Africa are facing, especially those that just matriculated. A lot of them feel that the world is open to them for the taking, but we know very well that about 300,000 of the 700,000 who graduated are joining the list of the unemployed, and to a certain extent, unemployable. In my article, I just wake them up to that reality and maybe call upon those who have the powers and maybe key role players to think about introducing entrepreneurship education in high schools, so the young people do not just end at the door of finishing matric and think about where do I go and study or where do I go find a job, to start thinking about I can be able to create a job. I have the skill sets and the knowledge to be an entrepreneur. There's a big belief that if we are able to cover things in that way, young people's lives and their prospects might be transformed. And I just think that as a country, we are not setting up young people for success in the way that we are managing the process. Number one, these young people are finishing high school with less spaces in higher education institutions. Mm-hmm. The numbers are there, startling. And secondly, not enough corporates have jobs, and not many enterprises are able to create jobs. And I think that's my argument in the article. I've got some thoughts and ideas of what can be done, but I'm just decrying the situation that is currently happening amongst the recently graduated and celebrated matriculants of 2023.
Absolutely, Doctor. Look, government as well as communities all have a role to play to actively engage with and buy from local entrepreneurs, you say in your article, in order to foster empowerment. I mean, we're all too familiar with the trends that South Africans do not necessarily support their own, but would rather don international brands as a symbol of status and prosperity among their peers. How do we then change this narrative?
I've got a different view in this one. I think my view is that South Africans do buy from their own. Mm-hmm. And South Africans do believe in entrepreneurship, but we've only told them negative stories about entrepreneurship. We've only told them that it is hard, it's for the few, it's for you to survive. We've never positioned it as a career option that moves society forward, that makes economies thrive, that create industries that bring other people on board. We've not been able to tell those stories in a positive light. I will bring it to your attention the disturbance in the footwear industry that is currently taking place with a number of brands being Batu, Via, Drip. Young people are donning these sneakers with pride, produced and made by South African entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Young entrepreneurs are daring to shape an industry. And they've started to become role models in that instance. Except my argument, however, is slightly different, is that we need to reform to be able to get young people to choose entrepreneurship. That reform is that research says you need to have the attitude towards entrepreneurship for you to become an entrepreneur. You have to have the mindset. Number two, you have to feel like you've got the skill sets to balance the books, to be able to count your money, to your inventory, your stock, to know where to go, to have the network to source production, to be able to produce. And I think a number of young people don't feel they've got those skill sets, don't even understand the language. I'm talking about the majority of South African youth here. And I'm saying if we introduce that language, that curriculum in high school, by the time they finish high school, they will know if entrepreneurship is a career option or not. Mm-hmm. Let me bring to you two things, maybe for your attention. Can you imagine of the 700,000 young people that have finished matric, 70 of them, let's say 10%, choose entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So which means you've got 70,000 jobs created. Now you multiply that by each and every one of the 70,000, employing at least three people. Can you imagine the amount of work we are creating? Right now, the second piece is that right now, we've got young people that are left to their own devices. And most of the time, they will choose socially destructive activities as opposed to them being productive, because we've only given them one pathway, which is the academic pathway, go look for a job or be in education.
And yes, Doctor, and in closing and very quickly, look, where do you think we're still lacking as a country then to ensure that we unlock the potential of the youth for a brighter and more prosperous future?
I am asking in my article that the Department of Basic Education make space for entrepreneurship to be part of the curriculum. I am saying don't let entrepreneurship be for the few and the privileged. I'm just saying let's create a pathway for them. Let's show them enough role models of entrepreneurs that are really making it, that are really have chosen entrepreneurship as a career pathway, and show them that it is hard, it requires resilience, but South Africans are resilient by nature, and that there's a market and there's an opportunity for them to become job creators rather than job seekers. I do believe that we have to be that deliberate, because we talk about it and we celebrate entrepreneurs that fail, we never celebrate those that win. And I just think that if more young people believe entrepreneurship is an option, we are really on a discourse that is going to take the country to a positive light. If you don't change young people's mind while they are still in your attention, while they are still in your control, in a controlled environment like a high school, you lose them to try and teach them about entrepreneurship after that, because it's about survival. The situation is different. So I think for me, that's what the argument is. That's what the positioning is. Platforms like this need to advocate for more shows that demonstrate entrepreneurship as a viable option like this, so that young people can know that it's not only entertainment space that I can be, but I can be an entrepreneur and I can change lives.